Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Great River Arts Open Mic Night. My name is Byron Nelson. I'm a new host for this event for the next few months. Phil and I, we're gonna get up here. We're gonna knock out one song to break the ice.
No, that's not true.
Living on the road, my friends, gonna keep us clean and free. Now you wear your skin like iron, breath as hard as kerosene. You are your mama's only boy, but her favorite one it seemed. She began to cry when you said goodbye. Sank into your dreams. Pancho was a bandit horse, rode a horse fast as polished steel, wore his guns outside his pants for all the honest world to feel. Pancho met his match, you know, on the deserts down in Mexico. No one heard his dying word. That's the way it goes. All the better of it is, they could have him any day. You only let him slip away. Of kindness, I suppose. Now Lefty can sing the blues all night long like he used to. The dust that Pancho picked down south ended up in Lefty's mouth. The day they let old Pancho low, Lefty split for Ohio, where he got the bread to go. There's nobody knows. All the better are they say, they could have him any day. Only let him slip away. Of kindness, I suppose. Now poets sing how Pancho fell. Lefty's living in a cheap hotel. Desert's quiet and Cleveland's cold. So the story ends, we're told. Pancho needs your prayers, it's true, but save a few for Lefty too. He only did what he had to do. Now he's growing old. All the better all they said, they could have him any day. Only let him slip away. Of kindness, I suppose. Yes, a few old brave federales said they could have him any day. They only let him go so wrong. kindness, I suppose. Poncho and Lefty. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And now we're going to transition over. Music. I'll tell you what, truly appreciate it. And Cliff, anytime you're ready to go,
All right.
it's yours.
Never did anything. Don't you go there. I never did anything. Don't you put it on me. Don't you put it on me. Don't put it on me. Don't put it on me. Don't put it on me. I said I wasn't ready to ride. Don't put it on me, just say it. I don't need it anymore. I said, don't you put it on me. Don't you dare put it on me. I didn't do anything, don't put it on me, or I'm gonna call Frankenstein's monster and he's coming after you. He's coming after you. He's coming after you. Don't pit it on me. Don't pit it on me. Don't put it on me no more. Yeah. There's monsters in the night, well, making a mess all over the night, well, throwing a fit all over the night, well, we better get 'em out of the night, well, yep, there's monsters in the night, well, we better get 'em out of the night, well, before it's too late now, they're eating inside the night, well, yep, there's monsters in the night, well, we better get 'em out of the night, well, before it's too late now, they're eating inside the night, well, yep, there's monsters in the night, well, there is. mess all over the knife well, throwing a fit all over the knife well. We better get 'em out of the knife well. Yep, there's monsters in the knife well. We better get 'em out of the knife well before it's too late now. They're eating inside the knife well. Yep, there's monsters in the knife well. We better get 'em out of the knife well before it's too late now. They're eating inside the knife well. Yep, there's monsters in the knife well. There it is. Day I go to the fire. I go and have some fun. I hang out. I'm not gonna lie. I go and sit on down. I go and I'm out of town. I fall backwards and then the chair snaps. It's true, I broke that chair, and that's not fair. That is just my worst for wear. I said I broke that chair, I don't know anymore. I'm saying, yeah, I broke that chair, and that's not fair. I'm not gonna have it, it's a worse for wear. I said I broke that chair, and I'm not taking it no more. I said I broke that chair. I didn't care, I didn't have it, I didn't take any more. I didn't want to break it anymore.
Really appreciate it. Thank you, Cliff. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Sonny.
Oh, where could my baby be? The Lord took her away from me. She's gone to heaven, so I've got to be good, so I can see my baby when I leave this world. We were out on a date in my daddy's car. We hadn't driven very far. There in the road, straight ahead, a car was stalled, the engine was dead. I couldn't stop, so I swerved to the right. I'll never forget the sound that night, the screaming tires, the busting glass, the painful scream that I heard last. Oh, where could my baby be? The Lord took her away from me. She's gone to heaven, so I've got to be good, so I can see my baby when I leave this world. When I woke up, the rain was pouring down. There were people standing all around. Something warm flowing through my eyes, but somehow I found my baby that night. I lifted her head, she looked at me and said, "Hold me, darling, just a little while." I held her close, I kissed her last kiss. I found the love that I knew I had missed. But now she's gone, even though I hold her tight. I lost my love, my life that night.
You got another one, Sonny. That was absolutely just beautiful.
Okay, I'll do one more. I haven't practiced. This one will be Somebody That I Used to Know by Goyote, if I says it right. Now and then I think of when we were together, like when you said you felt so happy you could die. Told myself that you were right for me, but felt so lonely in your company. But that was love in its innate, I still remember. You can get addicted to a certain kind of sadness, like resignation to the end, always the end. So when we found that we cannot make sense, well, you said that we would still be friends. But I'll admit that I was glad it was over. But you didn't have to cut me off, make it like it never happened and that we were nothing. I don't even need your love. You treat me like a stranger and it feels so rough. No, you didn't have to stoop so low, have your friends collect your records and they change your number. Guess that I don't need that though, 'cause now you're just somebody that I used to know. Now and then I think of all the times you screwed me over. was something that I'd done. But I don't want to live that way, reading into every word you say. You said that you could let it go, and I wouldn't get you hung up on somebody that you used to know. But you didn't have to cut me off, make out like it never happened and that we were nothing. I don't even need your love. You treat me like a stranger and it feels so rough. No, you didn't have to stoop so low, have your friends collect your records and they change your number. Guess that I don't need that though, 'cause now you're just somebody that I used to know. 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 'Cause now you're just somebody that I used to know.
Yay! Thank you, Sonny. That was absolutely fantastic. Wow, and we got a bouquet of flowers. Outstanding, absolutely. So that is so cool. Wow. I'll tell you what, we really got some really, really good performers up here playing for us tonight. Absolutely. You get the full spectrum, and that's really important. That's the creative side. The next act is going to be Jim. How do you pronounce your last name, Jim? Steinley? South of Swanville. Memories of my childhood and reading about fall. Absolutely. I'm everyone's cousin if you go back far enough. Well, absolutely. Well, welcome, cousin. Come on up, cuz. Cool beans. We'll get Jim set up and we'll get this thing going here shortly.
Okay, last August was the last time I was up here, and I had read some excerpts from my childhood. And I thought I was just going to continue on tonight. I had some other thoughts. I'd maybe do something else, but now I'm going to stick with this for tonight. So it was like life as a kid in Revere, Minnesota, which is in southwest Minnesota. Got Lamberton, Revere, and Walnut Grove. So this is an excerpt from, and I would just I think some of you people will probably be able to relate to this in your own childhoods and stuff. So it says, there always seemed to be plenty to do for a young child, even in such a small town as Revere. There was a school up to the 8th grade and plenty of children to play pump, pump, pull away, hide and seek, softball, and just walking the Chicago Northwestern Railroad train tracks to see who would fall off first. Traveling minstrel shows actually came there to the Revere, Minnesota in the 50s. And they would show up and put on a play in the city hall, which everyone, adults and children alike, seemed to like. Now, they were just, real minstrel shows. That's just what they did. It's hard to, you just don't see that anymore. And there was roller skating available once every week that was well attended. City Hall on the main floor had a nice hardwood floor and plenty of space to go rolling around and around to the lively music. I believe the skates rented for 10 cents. In the summer, we children could hardly wait for the weekly outdoor movies to start up. I believe it was on a Thursday evening the town started filling with cars searching for the best places to find a parking spot to watch the movies. A large screen was put up between two trees, and kids would spread out blankets to sit upon, hoping the mosquitoes wouldn't be too bad. Often the movie would be a Western or horror film, like, I don't know if these young children have ever seen anything like that. The Creature from the Black Lagoon is what it was. Probably most of you have heard of it at least. I think most people from that era do remember that movie. And of course, throwing rocks is great fun for us boys. Our targets generally were to see who could make it over the water tower or the grain mill. Being a lefty, I was the one who could usually make it that far. And I don't recall who the others might have been at this time, for which I'm sure they are grateful. But we boys did do some things that now at my age I'd have to put a quick stop to. Under cover of darkness, a few of us would hide, waiting for anyone to come out of Hegwood's bar on Main Street. With an egg in our hand, each one of us would launch it way up into the air, trying to see how close we could come to the person coming out. See, I told you, you people did the same thing as what I did way back then, in the 50s. So I don't think we ever actually hit anyone, but I know there were some close shots. And the height we got in the eggs made it hard to determine where it might have been thrown from. I don't think that egg throwing actually happened more than a time or two. Sometimes at night we would throw pebbles at the bell that hung from the old firehouse, much to the annoyance, I'm sure, of local neighbors. And speaking of the firehouse reminds me of the day I was uptown on Main Street and saw a car on fire. I ran to the firehouse where I knew the lever was to blow the alarm and started turning it on and off. I didn't know how many times you're supposed to do it. So I think it was about a dozen times I did it, and that brought the volunteer firemen on in a hurry. Lauren Johnson later told me he was spinning his wheels most of the way there from where he lived a couple blocks away. Well, at least I got their attention. So one day when I was quite young, I was down to my good friend Pat Kavanaugh's home on the very southwest end of town. We were doing something out in the yard when I spotted something quite weird flying or floating just a little ways away to the south. The object was going from the northwest toward the southeast at a leisurely pace, not that far from the ground. I'd estimate somewhere around 1,000 feet up. It was shaped kind of like a long cigar, bulbous at each end, but narrower towards the center area. I recall seeing the grayish, metallic-looking skin of the craft appeared to be made up of fairly large rectangles, and the craft did not give off any sound as it moved away. I asked my friend Pat years later if he remembered that incident, but he did not. Was it real? Or just my imagination? It's certainly still vivid in my mind yet. There was another time in my life when I must have been 16 or 17, when Dad, my brother John, and myself were heading up to Lobster Lake for a fishing trip up by Alexandria, Minnesota. And it was still dark as we drove past a large grove of trees. Heading towards Marshall, Minnesota, all of a sudden we saw a very large orb sitting just a short distance away on the top of a small knoll. It was like the full moon, but with more color. Dad stopped the car and we just sat there watching. Proceeding out of the front area of the orb towards the bottom and flying around to the right and behind were about 9 to 13 much smaller bright yellow orbs. The orbs did not reappear. Some years later, I asked my brother John if he remembered the incident. He did not. So again, was this a vivid incident? Just a dream that lasted all these years? Or did it really happen? I can't give you the answer to that, but to me it was real. I had spoken a little above of my friend Pat Kavanaugh. He had a younger sister named Joyce. There was no inside toilet in the old place where they lived, just an old standard unpainted two-hole outhouse. And I don't recall if I was there, but his sister was using the depository and being quite small, somehow slipped right through the hole into the right into the hole and landing squarely into the halfway filled foul-smelling pit. So how they got her out and cleaned off, I don't know. I don't remember that part at all. But that is what you would call not a good day. So, yeah, some different things happened back then. I always remember a young wild boy named Dickie Hatcher. He had the toughest feet of any kid I know, as he would run barefoot through the rough gravel, spinning his legs and feet like they were car tires. One summer day, about 5 of us boys were standing around the local tire repair shop on the east side of the downtown block, and there was a pressurized air hose laying outside. One of the older boys, name withheld to protect the guilty and not me. Picked up the air hose and stuck it on the rear of Dickie Hatcher's pants and released the air. He must have hit the main location as Dickie suddenly stood up on his toes and started swelling up, then just stood there, letting it all go out. Crying, he went running off home, and I don't blame him. It may have seemed like a practical joke to the older boy, but it was not a pleasant one for Dickie, I know. Thankfully, he was not injured, and I'm surprised at that. So. Another couple of boys that I was a friend of was Tom and Jack Kleinert, who lived across the street from us. When I was around 10 or 11, one of the boys lent me a real bow to use and to play with. One day, a car full of young men I did not recognize came by our house where I was out in the yard with a bow in my hand. They stopped, and one fellow asked me if he could borrow the bow to go deer hunting. He promised to bring back some deer meat if I would let him. Talk about learning how naive and trusting I was. I never saw that nice bow again. Soon after that, the Kleinerts moved, and I never told them I had lost their bow. I think it was a year or two later on Halloween, late in the afternoon, that I had carved out a large pumpkin, big enough to place the whole pumpkin over my head. A group of us disguised kids were standing on a Main Street corner uptown when Jack Kleinert all of a sudden appeared out of nowhere, inquiring the group as to where my whereabouts were. I had not yet let anyone know that was me under that pumpkin, so I just kept quiet. As soon as Jack left, I left and ran for home, being careful not to show myself. I hid behind the doghouse as Jack arrived and inquired of my father, who was outside at the time, where I might be. Dad did not know where I was, so Jack left. I think Jack was wanting to know where that bow was that he had been borrowed to me, so I've always felt guilty that I lent that bow out. So much for trusting strangers. Years later, I was going from the southwest Minnesota to Rochester, and wouldn't you know it, there was a guy out there hitchhiking, and I picked him up, and it was Jack Kleinert. So, growing up, and of course I was at that time too, and we talked, but I don't recall if we ever said anything about that bow, either one of us. But that was the last time I did see him. So. And I had a nice old red motor scooter that I picked up, probably in the 1940s it was made, and I enjoyed driving that all over the countryside. Many trips to the farm or to my Aunt Katie's and even to Double Lake south of town, about 12 miles, with fishing pole in hand. One of the bolts on the head of the motor had a bad habit of getting a little loose, allowing the bolt to heat up red hot. Of course, it kept losing power when that happened, and I'd have to stop and wait for it to cool down. Spitting on the head of the bolt would cause the spit to boil up and help cool it down just a little faster, although I'd still have to wait up to 10 to 15 to 20 minutes before it gets started again. And when I was young, I liked to run as all kids do, and sprinting was more my style. I think I was about 15 or 16 when I went out to the gravel alley behind our home and measured off 100 yards. Getting ready to run, I had my wristwatch in my hand. Upon the second hand reaching straight up, I took off down the alley, driving my legs as fast as they would go. I never slowed, but just kept increasing my speed and driving my legs harder and harder as the end approached. As I crossed over the finish line, I looked at my watch and saw not quite 10 seconds had passed. A 100-yard dash in 10 seconds or under. My heart was pounding, let me tell you. I went back to the house and just sat in a chair for the next half hour, scared that my heart would never stop pounding. I never said anything to my parents at the time, but I never tried running so hard again. I go, and I just have one other thing I wanted to bring out. Fall. It's my favorite time of year, and I wrote a thing about it called "O Glorious Fall." And it's like, there's been hardly any colors coming out in the trees, it seems like. And what has come out, they're just dying early, but just the last couple of days I've been seeing some nice, beautiful color. So here's about "O Glorious Fall." O fall, how I love you. What stupendous displays of flaming reds, crisp yellows, burnt oranges. It's the 4th of July all over again. Starbursts cascading and exploding over the hills and valleys. pinwheels of iridescence spinning along the silver streams, sparklers sitting and glowing upon the fences. Leaves, having spent their energy, go fluttering down to ride slowly away upon the gentle back of the friendly waters below, carried to their final resting place, known only to the silent stream. Ask though I would of its final destination, the stream only hurried faster around the bend, without stopping to answer, intent on doing its job, had no time for such pleasantries. Fall is the time for the army of trees to put on their best dress uniforms, to parade in their finery for all to see before throwing off their clothes and girding for battle against the advancing war god of winter. Who can fight and endure a long battle encumbered by heavy layers of clothes, or to fight without draining the fatness from their bodies? Maples are among the first to realize the time for battle is near and time is short. Looking splendid in their dress uniforms, they start toughening their muscles to take on the strong, cold, shrieking spear thrusts of the enemy. They will be prepared to laugh in the face of Old Man Winter himself. As swirls of leaves race down the street, each one chasing after the one in front, they do not see me walking towards them. I stop and watch as they bump against my boots, then pick themselves up and scurry after their comrades who have moved on. I laugh as they act just like a group of grade school children just let out of school, all full of laughter and excitement and eager to get to their play. Fall, what a glorious tribute to the Creator who designed and planned in such detail this most exhilarating season of the year, who gave to the air the crispness that makes our blood race with excitement. Draw deep into your lungs that elixir and tonic. Can you not feel life itself surging throughout your body? See how your stride lengthens and a spring comes into your step. Yes, fall is my favorite time of year, a time to prepare for the winter ahead, to think of pumpkin pie, cranberry sauce, and Thanksgiving turkey, a time to experience joy and to sing a song of praise to the Creator who designed it all.
Thank you, Jim. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you. Command of the English language, and to be able to put it in a poem form, that was outstanding. Next performer that we got coming up here, Jonathan Wick, Little Falls. Tell us about your performance tonight. Yeah, well, it's hard to know what to say before it happens. So with that, we'll get you set up, Jonathan, and you need a little...
Hello. Thanks. Hello, welcome to my set. Welcome to the moment in which you're sitting out there looking at me. Here it is, it's now. Yeah, it's about all we can say at the moment. My name is Jonathan. So I wrote on the thing, I don't know if you said that I wrote improv. I am not going to do improv tonight, but I am going to do poetry. So, here's a poem. It's called The Summer Day by Mary Oliver. The summer day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her enormous jaws, her enormous eyes all around, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down in the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Thank you. So poetry is pretty great, according to me. Not sure if you've ever thought about how poetry rates on your level of poetry ratings from 1 to 10. I mean, your measure of things. This is the improv part. And yeah, so let's stop improving and think of another poem to do. Okay, I thought of one. Is it the same poem that you guys were thinking of? I can only think of one poem you might have been thinking of. Do you want to see if I can remember it? Okay, here we go. Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and frozen lake, the coldest evening of the year, he gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there's some mistake. The only other sounds, the sweep of snowy wind and frosty flake. Whose woods these are, I think I know. I've forgotten some of the words, though. So I'm making up this stanza here to pause before I get to the other one that's near. These woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Thank you. And one by David White. Enough. These few words are enough. If not these words, this breath. If not this breath, this sitting here. This opening to the life we have refused again and again until now. Until now. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Amazing, amazing ability. Thank you very much. Thank you. Truly appreciate it. That concludes all the artists that we have signed up for tonight.